Hello, and welcome to our virtual annual discipline meeting for the 2024-2025 school year. I am Dane Lamont, the School Partnership Specialist for Penn Highlands Dual Enrollment Program. During our fall 2024 semester, we plan to have our in-person ACE discipline meeting at the Penn Highlands Richland campus. Unfortunately, poor weather conditions forced us to cancel the event this year. However, our college liaisons were still able to hold recorded Zoom sessions to discuss specific topics related to the disciplines you teach. Please enjoy this recording of your annual discipline-specific activity, and we hope you can join us in person next year. Thank you for making this program possible for your school and your students.
All right, we are now recording. Okay, so to recap, one of the things that we want to do for next year, if you can somewhere on your syllabi for your high school class, is just to add in that this course is equivalent to the Penn Highlands Bio 104, 114, PHY 102, 103, whatever course it's equivalent to. And again, you could put that wherever you like it, at the top, in the header, in the footer, whatever works for you for it. So that was just be one addition to the syllabi when you take care of that for it. Does anybody have any specific questions in regards to courses or visits? I haven't got the spring visit list. So, and I know I am finished with the fall list. So I can't tell you if you have a visit yet in the spring or not that was there. So, but does anyone have any questions on that?
How often are the visits again? Aren't they just every 4 years?
3 years.
3
Yep.
years, okay.
Yep.
So I think I just had mine last year.
Yeah, I think I was down there in Spring Cove last year. So, and
so when you know, you'll notify us as well, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I do know the one thing about Richland. So you guys are all on the same rotation. You and Mr. Mangus and physics is on the same rotation. And I'm pretty sure because we have some new, Kaylee had let me know we had some new ACE people coming into science. I am going to be doing some of them in the spring, and some of you are getting pushed to fall for it. So
Okay.
it might be next fall till I do my Richland rotation, because usually I do everyone at Richland the same year. It's just the rotation you guys fall on. So
Okay.
yeah. And oh, one of the other things that has changed a little bit too, for those of you who haven't had visits in the past, in like the last year or two, is we no longer have to collect artifacts. Remember how before, like I'd send out the learning objective, and then I'd say, can you give me an example of your A paper, your, or, you know, problem or something, your C and your F. So that we no longer have to do. So which makes it a little bit easier, maybe, because depending upon when I visit, especially with anatomy and physiology classes, if they're full year, you might have covered the learning objective in October, but I'm visiting in March and you already handed those papers back to the students. So I know a lot of times it was like, I don't have the artifacts left, you know, the students took them already. So now we just have to turn in, basically, if you have 10 kids in your class who are enrolled in our course, then you just have to show us the breakdowns of A, B, C, Ds, and Fs. So that is one change from the last visit you might have had. If I was still asking for artifacts, the next time I visit you, there will be no artifacts for it. You know, we'll do the same form. The form hasn't changed, where I kind of fill out the course equivalency and then send you the little write-up. That's all still the same for visits, but with the assessment, there just won't be the artifacts. Does
Do
that
we
make
have to still give a common assessment?
Yes, we still have to give a common assessment, which we are revamping our whole assessment process at Penn Highlands, because not because of this, but we're just trying to get more efficient and effective with it. And our middle states accreditation of the entire college takes place in 2026. So we're going through that, evaluating all of our processes and procedures right now. So the common assessment will kind of be, we're trying to streamline it. So with like physics, John, we started teaching the physics in the summer now. So I'm trying to align that assessment with any of my physics people who do 110 and 111 that's there for it. So, and then Kaylee's watching like when the visits are. So we're going to try to line everything up so it meshes real nice. So then I have a whole product to say, yep, here's all my physics visits from the ACE courses. And then we taught the class in the summer and these were the results for it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll probably get a new one the next time, now that we've kind of restarted the 110, 111 on campus for us. We'll have something new, so. And
I have a
it could
question.
be, oh, go ahead.
I have a question about assessments. I know on the Chem 106 page, there was always an assessment linked. I noticed this year there is no assessment yet, so I was just wondering when to be looking for that.
This is Crystal, right?
Yes,
I didn't do a visit, correct?
not yet. No.
Okay, so if you are not up for a visit, the way it works is you don't have to do the common assessment.
Okay. I just didn't know if I'd be on the list or not because I don't know if it's time yet, but I'm getting close.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure just in case.
Yeah, so if you're a spring visit, I will know because we just set these dates. I will know by the second week in February if you're getting a visit. So that's when as soon as I get my email that gives me my list, then I will send out the email that we have to visit. So here's one change from probably last time. The faculty member who was here in chemistry has retired, and we technically have not replaced him, but we hired a bio person who has a chem cert in Pennsylvania. So he's kind of filling in for chem right now because again, we're figuring out what to do with it. So there will probably be a new chem assessment, and I'm not going to say it'll be on the website because we're trying to redo those pages also. We have a lot of balls in the air right now, but you will absolutely get the common assessment, at least from me, in the email if you have a visit. So you can definitely count on that.
I guess my concern with that is I would always look for it and give the assessment anyway because you didn't know till later if you were going to have a visit like in the past. But like you said, a lot of times I'm covering the material earlier. And so what would happen is sometimes if I don't find out what the assessment is until later, the kids we've moved on long ago.
Right. No, understandable. And that's great feedback too, because again, this is one of the things we're trying to fix and make more efficient, especially with our ACE program and assessment, is that very concept. Because we have a separate schedule at the school. So Chem 106 might not be assessed every year. So then Kaylee's starting to look at like when her chemistry people, bio, whatever, need their visit, which then they'll do the common assessment and then figure out how that aligns with where we have the Chem one and then what we can put out. So bear with us for a little bit as we're refiguring this out. And here's the worst case scenario. If you, and I have this flexibility, so like say in spring, you get a visit and I see what Brad wanted to do, and you're like, hey, I did that in, October. Okay, fine. We'll pick something else. So we can, right now, we can ebb and flow with it and we can make adjustments to it so it works for everybody. Does that sound okay?
Yes, thank you. That answered all my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, like I said, we're just trying to be flexible because we do have a lot of changes coming up and, just trying to make it more efficient and effective for everybody in regards to assessment for it. So, But yeah, it is, especially like some classes too are half year, some are full year. So there's all kind of dynamics with us who are ACE discipline leads working in the high schools, that faculty members that we work with who don't work in the ACE program, they're always like, it's so simple. I'm like, it's not that simple. I was like, you have no idea. It's not that simple. We work with a lot of different areas that have different things going on. So any other questions I can answer in terms of visits or assessment, or any questions along those lines? How is the enrollment? Does everyone have students like enrolled in the classes? Have you seen enrollment go up, stay the same, go down? Any thoughts on that?
I have one of my largest classes. I have 17 that took it for college credit, so.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, my numbers are up a little bit as this year as well. I think word spreading how this is a good beneficial thing to the kids.
Okay, that's
I
good.
have
And
a
hopefully,
slightly, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Crystal. You're fine.
I have a slightly higher number. I mean, we're a very small school, but I have like 10 or 11 this year, and that's a pretty high number for us.
Okay. And oh, so actually everyone is saying they have higher numbers than they did. So that's really good. And hopefully like word is getting out with the different pathways and stuff. And especially for the physics, for kids going into computer science, because that is a good transferable class. And we have the agreement with UPJ, with their computer science department for it. So that's good to hear that that's getting out. And that's the other thing. If you ever have, if your students ever come to you with questions, and you know, like maybe their parents are signing them up for this and making it take the class and everything. But if your students ever have questions and say, well, if I take these credits, what colleges can they go to and what majors like can they go into, or are they the most beneficial for? You know, feel free to reach back to me. I'm more than happy to answer that question. I mean, I know like your guidance counselors are supposed to answer that question. They're one person. But I mean, I work with the flip side of this, getting the credits into us, and then when they move to their 4 years, how it all works with the different programs out there and it flows into it. And I mean, you know, we work with Slippery Rock, we work with the Mounds, we work with St. Francis, UPJ, all the state schools. Probably only the big one that, you know, isn't fantastic is Penn State. And Penn State Altoona, though, if you look on our website, especially for the schools over there in the Altoona area, you know, Spring Cove, because I know they love Penn State for it. We have done an agreement with them now with a small batch of classes that might be beneficial for those students. But, you know, feel free to use me as a reach back if a student comes to you and asks you that question about what they're taking. So I'm happy to help and give you a list that you can provide to the student for that. All right, any other questions there? Perfect. Okay, so the only other aspect that we usually always do is some sort of professional development. And what we're doing this year is talking about AI usage in science and in the science classroom. And what I wanted to do is just kind of go around to everyone who's able to use their audio, or if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. And say like, you know, does your school have a policy on AI? What are the students doing with AI? How is it being utilized? Is it a problem? You know, what have you seen so far? And I'll kind of give you an example. I'll give you two examples of what we've seen in the past year in terms of AI at our level. And normally when I speak of AI, the majority of our students, all they really know is Chat GPT. That's about their extent of it. So with the science students, what they have tried to do and what we've kind of shown them and allowed them to do is say, okay, can you use your AI to write pieces of your lab report. So if you have to write a procedure for your lab report, does it work to have, your Chat GPT write it? So we've done some experiments with that. And the surprising outcome with it was, and this is from the student's viewpoint that we got, and we just did this with one class, was that it doesn't have a human quality to it, which I was like, okay, that makes sense because it doesn't. And they had to go back and do too much rework on it to really, because it wasn't what exactly they did, and they knew it was going to get marked wrong, and it changed things in ways that didn't make sense for the lab report. So it showed a lot of the students that using it was kind of an ineffective way of trying to get ahead for it. And then the other example, because I teach in the education department here too, so for future education majors, we had them say, go ahead, use it, try to write a whole lesson plan, have, your AI component write it and see what happens. And they did, and it was kind of the same thing, that they felt like they had to do too much rework based on our rubrics to be able to get a good score on it, that it was more wasting their time than them just doing it the first time. Now that was just two classes, two very, small populations of students, but they both kind of had the same outlook after they did it, then tried to get graded on it and realized they weren't going to get good grades just by doing that. So again, it was kind of good to hear that from that student population. So we'll kind of go around and see what you guys have to say. Brian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, our school encourages it just as far as like just another tool for teaching. Like any other tool is going to be monitored. I know it's the same thing. I know right away when reading a lab report that it was not their work, um, and I did kind of the same thing. They had to redo it, and after that, with a few kids, it wasn't a problem. You could just tell it was like it's so in depth, more than what they knew. And I knew right away it wasn't their work. So after the first couple times, it's kind of like your situation. They kind of figure it out. It's not worth it, and just they were just kind of doing their own work then. So I kind of had the same results.
It's interesting. Yeah. John, how about you?
Yeah, I know at our school, they had some issues in the English department with kids using it to write papers. And they have a program that will, check for AI. But I haven't really seen much of it in my physics class because, the lab reports they're writing, they're using Excel and things like that to do calculations versus writing. I did have them do a lab where they had to write a procedure, but it was basically how to set up the lab and so forth. So AI really wasn't going to help them with that. So I don't see it in my area as much as the English and history departments do at our school.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big conversation in our school too. Do you know, John, what your school uses to do the checks?
That I do not.
We had Turnitin was the one that we had that was able to be the students, like sometimes in English they had to turn it in there for it, and then they had to give the results along with the paper to show what the Turnitin people said for it that was there. So that was one of the tools that we used. Penny, are you able to, is your audio okay?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
We did an in-service at the beginning of the school year. It was Magic School with AI. It was just like tools for teachers to use and also tools for students to use as well. And there were some things in there that I liked, but I mean, my students aren't really like, they don't like to go over their work again and do it twice. And so like, if it's not their original work and they know that, like, as soon as I grade it, I've been using more of the writing tools to teach them how to write effectively and implement scientific terminology. But for the most part, I mean, I think our English department has some things that they do, but I'm not familiar with all of their techniques, but that's what we do from the science aspect.
Okay. And Crystal?
Sorry, one of my children just came up to me for a second, needing my attention. and you will wait just 1 second. Let me talk here. Sorry about that.
That's
Um,
okay.
so I think other departments seem to have more of an issue with AI than I would say that myself and my other science department members have. I think the same thing. It just it doesn't AI isn't doing a good job of writing, say, a lab report or answering lab questions and matching it to the actual data and what we've actually done. And so it becomes very obvious. And like many people have already said, people don't want to go back over it. So I think they just kind of avoid it altogether for the most part. Now, we have used AI in some other ways. Like I also have used things like Magic School or Diffit or Brisk in like different ways as a teacher. And we are using some activities to kind of teach them how to use AI. Like this wouldn't be in my Penn Highlands class, but in my Chem 1 class, like right now, we're just going over atomic theory and so forth. And so I put in a document for them to read that would usually be like an excerpt from a text. And then they could do a scientist chat with them. So the AI is posing as the scientist and they kind of question back and forth. So they learn more about the experiments or about the scientist and so forth. So that's a neat way of trying to get them to learn how to ask the correct questions to
Mhm.
learn rather than just simply, well, do my lab report for me.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Brisk is another application that students can you as a teacher can turn your stuff into and then see if AI was used or plagiarism that's there for it. Southern Huntington actually purchased Brisk for their entire school district, and all their teachers can use it no matter what their discipline. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That I thought that was a large purchase for a very small school district. Is there, and then I'll have Coles up there. Yeah, we're kind of lucky in science in that way for it. I think sometimes it's harder to cheat in science and math classes, math-based classes like physics and just regular math. Even our math faculty, even though they have like photo math and stuff like that, as soon as you give the student the actual test and all of a sudden they're getting hundreds on everything and then they fail the test, then you realize they've been turning everything like on photo math and they don't actually know how to do it. So yeah, we're very lucky that we teach subject areas that it's a little bit harder to cheat in. So at least in that aspect with AI. So I know some places in the college are very and I always I don't know, I take this with a grain of salt and you teach high school students and this is just my opinion and maybe you can say yes or no, but our administration sometimes really feels that our students are a lot more tech savvy with all this AI and different stuff than they are. I just know like the general students that I teach, they're not into this as much as they think they are, that's there for it. Any thoughts on that in like your school districts? Are your kids like way tech savvy that they're definitely coming into college and blowing us away? Or is it just like they like their Snapchat and TikTok and that's about what they do?
Yeah, I agree. They're tech savvy in the things they're interested in, but
Mm,
things they're not, they have no, they won't be using as much of things they're not interested in.
right.
Yeah, I'm surprised how little kids know nowadays, like with Excel. It's like I have to teach Excel every time I want them to do a graph. It's awful.
Yep. Yeah, I ran into that a couple weeks ago just with my education majors with the tech class that yep, they couldn't do a simple sum formula in Excel. They had no idea how to set it up to make it sum automatically. I'm like, oh,
I honestly don't think that's taught anywhere anymore. Like it used to be in classes where they taught you how to use Microsoft Word, all the Office suite programs. I just don't think it's taught much anymore.
so good thing you brought up. When I first started at Penn Highlands, every single major, no matter what it was, you had to take micro apps, which is Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And you had to take a whole course on it. If you actually look at the requirements for middle states and like how you have to run programs, you have to show that every program you have, and this actually goes for like Pitt, Penn State, it doesn't matter because we're all middle states accredited, that you have a tech component to it. And that was the tech component for everything. And the administrations decided that, oh, the tech component was being met in different ways with different learning outcomes, and we no longer needed a whole class for it. So now not everyone takes microcomputer apps in every major at Penn Highlands. And I totally agree. I think it's doing a disservice to these kids coming up because, to your point, John, they really don't know these tools. I have students, they don't understand how to email because they're always like, can you just text me? And I'm like, no, one day you're going to be in a professional environment for some of you, and you're going to have to email someone something that doesn't have little I's and U's and, stuff in it. And it has to look appropriate. That's there. So I just struggle with that. Even when they try to email me and the stuff that I could probably, you guys wouldn't be surprised, but I should do that sometime, is just take screenshots of the emails I get from 19 and 20-year-olds of what they email me and what it looks like. And it's crazy at times.
I agree with you, Sherry. I've been learning that this year.
So Penny is adjuncting for us, which any of you are more than welcome to do if you ever have the desire that you would like to teach a college class in the summer, because I know you're like teaching full time during the semester. Let me know and we can talk about it. But Penny's adjuncting for us. And I think, Penny, is it fair to say that you're really seeing that there is not a big difference between your 11th and 12th grader and your 19 and 20-year-old in the classroom?
I am not. You told me that many times, Sherry, when you came and observed me. Yes, I agree. There's not much difference at all. And they do not have the technological tools that they need. We have Google Classroom at JCS, and my students can hardly navigate Google Classroom with what's in that, with what they're learning, because they're only interested in what interests them. But yes, there's not that much difference at all between high school and these courses I'm teaching now.
Nope. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. You'd think like maybe the cognitive development would go up a little bit when they got there, but there's definitely a lag for it. So, but
I had a student ask me the other day here at Penn Highlands, what is Outlook? That was the email that I got from them. And I was like, do you not check your emails? I don't think that these students do not check their emails. They don't check their emails.
No, and that's our only, at the college level, that's our only way of communication, because we're not supposed to be texting them. And keep in mind, this is week 15 for us. So the student went the whole semester without knowing what they're emailing.
There are no words.
Yeah.
I mean, I responded, but that's what you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. All right. Well, thank you very much for that discussion. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up? Anything that you see coming down the pike, from the school district, from any of your school districts with classes, supporting science, not supporting science, anything else that's on the docket? Open time question here for anything you'd like. See, and this is just like in our classroom when we do this and all the kids go, no one better raise their hand and say anything because I want to be done. Because everyone's sitting there, no one say anything else because we want to go. It's 5:36, right? Because we're just like our students sometimes too.
Speaking truth.
Yep. So, okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the attendance tonight. And then I do have the everyone who attended. So you guys will be good for your annual discipline meeting, and you won't be receiving an email from Kaylee in the spring to do anything else. So you'll be all taken care of. And then maybe Crystal will be the only person I see. But if not, maybe everybody else in another year or two. Okay.
Thank you, Sherri.
Thank you, Sherri.
Thank you
have
very
a good
much.
evening, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.